Wo Long Fallen Dynasty just came out today, and it is a beast of an experience. If you enjoy Nioh 1 and 2, you're going to love Wo Long, since, it was just made by the same team and all. The game delivers a lot of hard and fast tutorials your way in the first portions of the game, but I'm going to go through 10 of my top tips that I wish I knew before starting. Now, this should help you out greatly in beating the learning curve of the first few hours of the game. Keep in mind that this game plays just like any other Soulsborne. It just really takes getting the pacing of the game down to really understand everything. You can quickly jump ahead to any tip that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. And if you end up enjoying the video, please don't forget to like, comment, and or subscribe. Each one of those things does help out any content creator you watch in a very huge way. Lastly, don't forget to follow me on Twitch, where I stream this game as well as a slew of others. We'll be doing a giveaway of the game when I go live around 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time today, so tune in via the link in my description. But let's dive in on my top 10 best tips before you get started in Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. Our first tip is about block, dodge, and parry. The game shows that you can deflect things by pressing circle, double press circle to dodge things, and then you can hold down L1 to block. Well, the big thing is that you can actually do these in tandem. So you can hold down block and dodge and or deflect. This allows you to get a little bit of an edge when it comes to doing just one or the other. So if I just take the hit, that hurts. If I hold down block, I'm just going to go ahead and block. Now, if I go ahead to deflect it, whenever he attacks again, I deflect it. But maybe I miss in the middle of a sequence and I don't actually get a proper deflect off, or I don't really dodge it. Having that block up will help mitigate a lot of that damage so that I'm not constantly taking damage with heavier hitting bosses and higher morale units. I strongly recommend you always be in block mode while you are dodging, deflecting, and parrying. As you can see right there, I did not deflect, I just dodged, and I still kind of kept to mitigate a lot of that damage. Another really important portion of the game is sneak attacks. Now, if I take a look at the enemy in front of me, I can see that my reticle is locked onto them. It's got the little white circle around their back. Now, as I slowly move forward, you can see that changes to red, much in the same way it does for critical attacks, which we'll get to later. But this is going to help you out in two ways. One, you're going to be able to do a lot of damage up front with the sneak attack by simply pressing triangle into them. But if I look at my morale gauge, which is that 4 directly above my health, I can see that pulsing green bar. That's how much health or how much morale I'm going to get by simply completing the sneak attack. I will get additional morale for actually completing the kill. So if I go ahead and go through with this, you can see it's going to show me all of the additional morale I'm getting, and that really helps to boost your morale quickly, especially when you're trying to farm or get a competitive edge against your opponents. On that very same note, morale is extremely important to the game. Unlike many other Soulsborne games, morale is almost more important than your level because it's an innate damage bonus as well as defense bonus that you're going to get when you are dealing with things in the game. It allows you to basically superficially level within an existing portion of that game. Now, if you look in the upper right hand corner, you're going to see a little down arrow that says 2. That tells me that if I die, the lowest my morale can ever possibly be is 2. My current morale is 4. Upgrading your morale to much higher than your current point really helps you in trying to get a competitive edge when you are clearing your way through older content, which we'll get into in a bit, or current content that you maybe just cannot get past a certain monster, cannot get past a certain group of enemies. Increasing your morale is really going to help you by clearing things behind you, sneak attacking, because that's what's going to massively increase your morale, and also your morale goes up in the middle of combat. Doing any kind of blocking, deflecting critical attacks, and dealing those critical attack damages all will boost your morale. But conversely, taking damage, taking a critical hit, those will drain your morale, especially dying as well. But keep in mind that that's how you're going to boost and remove your morale. This next tip is a quick one, but pretty much just a huge reminder to explore everything. Look for the little white walls or things that allow you to jump on top of any buildings to get any items that you might have missed. Check every little alcove, jump on every single building, jump to every single platform, because there are a ton of items or battle flags that you can just simply, marking flags that you should be taking advantage of. Staggering enemies is a real big part of the game. Either the boss or an individual enemy, it is an important thing to do because it allows you to do a big critical hit that does a ton of damage. Essentially, whenever you're fighting an enemy, they get the same spirit gauge you do. When it moves all the way to the left, it's going to stagger them. In that moment, you have a chance to press triangle and do a crit hit. Now, you also have the chance to deflect a heavy crit from an enemy or from a boss. This gives you a moment where they are staggered. You get that red reticle that pops up yet again, like you're going to see in this clip right here, and then you'll do a considerable amount of damage to either one-shot them or do a ton to the boss. If you find yourself struggling in the first portion of the game, a big thing you can do is backtrack. Kill a lot of the enemies you already have killed and earn yourself a considerable amount of, well, I'm just going to say the word souls because that fits the genre. But also boost your morale. That is a big thing you're going to want to do. And the best way to do this is by progressing all the way up to the boss in the first level. This will ensure that if you do die, your morale won't drop below a certain point. 10 is that cap at the very end of this level. But you're going to backtrack, boost your morale by doing those crit attacks that we talked about, by doing those sneak attacks that we talked about, so that when you actually come into the boss fight at around level 10 with like 20 or 25 morale, you're going to be so jacked up on juice that you're going to rip right through them. And this is a tip that applies to every point in the game. Anytime you're particularly struggling on going forward, just go backwards. Keep killing things behind you, build your morale, build up your souls, and grind a little bit. The Nioh games, unlike the Dark Souls games, I think really lean a little bit heavier on grinding by going back through old content, versus the Dark Souls games are more focused on, yeah, grind a boss, but here you're going to take advantage of really boosting your morale to kind of superficially bloat up your damage within your actual level bracket. This next tip is about being aggressive. You really need to work on your aggression in this game. Use that deflect ability to really boost your morale. In fact, work on your morale to keep your aggression up. I think that it's too often very common to be very kind of defensive and passive in Dark Souls games. You know, you don't want to get too cocky. That's when the game kills you, right? And that's still true here. But also know your strengths and you know how to get those deflections really well timed so that you can really work a boss over. And that's something that you're going to do a lot in the early portions of the game, especially if you're trying to kill this tiger boss over and over and over again to build your morale quickly, whatever it is. But keeping that aggression on is going to allow you to push through the game in a more succinct fashion without having to constantly work back over yourself by being too defensive like you would maybe in, say, any of the other Soulsborne games. A big tip is about your virtues, and your virtues are basically going to be like your stat allocation in any other major Soulsborne game. Your certain weapons will scale with your virtue, whatever it is. But these virtues are multifold in the sense that wood here is going to help out with my HP as well as spirit loss when attack. But if I look over on the right, it shows me exactly what is affected by each virtue. You can see then, here's red and so on and so forth with earth, metal, and water. Two big things I do want to point out here though with these virtues is water and earth. Earth is going to help out with the amount of spirit gain I gain while deflecting an attack, versus water mitigates the amount of spirit used while deflecting an attack. So both of these kind of help the same coin, just depends on if you want to mitigate the amount consumed, because it does consume spirit to block attacks or deflect attacks, or if you want to use earth to actually help you gain. So having these two at a very nice balance where you are not consuming as much as you're gaining when deflecting is a great way to help you build spirit, because spirit is what is used to cast wizardries as well as martial arts. I'd really encourage you to take a look at these. You can respec this at any time for free after you get past the initial portions of the game, so don't worry too much about your virtues. Play through the game, try out a bunch of different weapons, see what play styles you like, see what individual spells you like, because remember, these virtues do also dictate the spells you can get. When you take a look at these spells, like Absorb Vitality here, this tells me that I need level 3 wood before I can even use this ability. Then it casts with 0 morale and 730 spirit. So just get a feel for everything before you really dedicate yourself to one build, but there are a lot of build diversity across all these different spell uses and all the different use cases for your virtue. Just be mindful of which ones are taking advantage of which weapons you're using. So another little tip here that the game shows you but doesn't necessarily tell you to go there is the travel button. Press the travel button and you can jump around to different parts of the map. But the big one here is if you're just starting out, go do basic training, because it expands upon a lot of the things that you would otherwise learn just by simply going through the story, you'll get all the information right up front so you can learn things and you don't have to kind of double back on stuff. Or maybe, man, if I had known how to properly deflect things at that point, or if I'd known how to use martial arts at that point, it would have been more beneficial. Go here into basic training and just press X and go and do it again, and it'll tell you, hey, you're going to leave your current battlefield to start the tutorial, but you'll just jump back to the battlefield where you were when you're done. So make sure as soon as you get this unlocked, you do it so you have all of the tutorial stuff out of the way and you pretty much understand all the base mechanics. On the same note of travel, you should make sure that you go back to do any of the stuff that you have done before. Say, for example, the Village of Calamity, if you've completed it already, you also have the ability to go through it again, re-earning the same things that you got, but at a higher level, and also completing the boss to complete the initial first set that you have access to in the game. This is the only way to get that set, is by essentially doing this mission over until you actually have it completed. You should have gotten a majority of the items just by completing this round, but doing it one more time should finish off maybe the chest or the legs that you did not get the first time around. Lastly, as an honorable mention, you should really be delving into as much of the information that you can find on the internet when it comes to Soulsborne games. As this is your first foray into any of them, Nioh, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, any of it, you should really tap into a lot of the great resources out there. And the two big channels that I think have helped me the most in this would be Fighting Cowboy and Fextra Life. I'm going to link them both in the description. Please do go and check those channels out. They are much larger than mine, but they have got a repertoire of knowledge for pretty much every type of Soulsborne game. Fextra Life in specific has just tons of RPG stuff. But scour as much as you can, learn as much as you can, because there might be someone that presents the information in a way that actually clicks with the way that you probably understand it better. A lot of people will say the same thing, just in a different way. So make sure you delve into those, and really don't be afraid of the punishing kind of road that you're on. If you're not familiar with Soulsborne games, the journey is in the pain, trust me. And you will become much better at the game by simply redoing the first level, completing the tutorial, and by going back over and kind of buffing yourself up by getting a little extra souls or a little extra morale. You'll find that your skills will increase very quickly over that first 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of gameplay if you just kind of really stick to it and try to find the pace of the game. Because that's really what breaks all these games apart, is how their pacing really works. Dark Souls is a series 1, 2, 3, and then you have Elden Ring, and then you have Sekiro and Demon Souls, all four made by the same company, but all with different pacings that then kind of puts you in the driver's seat a little bit better per game. So find your pacing, tap into a lot of that information, and you'll be off to the races. If you have any other questions, or there's anything else that you want to share in the comment section below, any kind of great tips, anything like that, please, by all means, do share that information. Try to disseminate as much of that information out to the populace as possible. It's always a great thing. Also, too, if you have any other big YouTubers or info sites that you like to pour over for all your Soulsborne information, let it be known in the comment section below for anyone who's tapping into these for the first time. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.